And welcome back to Property Matters on Dublin South FM with myself, Caro Tallon. You can contact us on Twitter at iPropertyRadio or email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. So now I'm joined by Keith Ryan, co-founder and CEO of ScanQuo. Keith, you're very welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I can already tell by your background that you're in a slightly warmer location than Ireland.
Indeed, Caroline. Thanks for having me on as well. I've been in Tenerife for the last 7 months, and so unfortunate I've been on lockdown here with everything has been open. So very blessed to be here in a warm climate, and please God, when things lift up, we can go back to countries that be like back home in Ireland, and even back home to London as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So London is your base ordinarily, although I think most people will tell the Irish accent.
Absolutely, yeah. Waterford by birth, and lived in Cork for many years, and then 7 years ago moved to London to bring this vision and dream to life.
Very good. Well, look, let's talk about this vision and this dream. So I mentioned there you're the co-founder and CEO of ScanQuo. So what is ScanQuo?
So basically, where the name even derived from is, I come from the cleaning industry, and Carol, I've been involved in the industry all my life. And where ScanQuo came from, and the idea and the concept was 7 years ago, I just got very disillusioned with the industry because such was the variance on how people price contracts, or companies price contracts, in the extremities from very expensive to actually not making any margin, and even in some cases losing money just to win the contract. So the brainchild was for me to identify, could existing surveying 3D scanning technology that you would see on construction sites, could they be brought internally to digitally map the twin of the building? And of course they could. Now what ScanQuo is doing is, we are not reinventing the wheel with scanning technology. We are piggybacking off of the back of it to identify the measurements that come from a 3D scan, which is exacting to 99.9%. So with a lot of the time and motion studies that I've done within the cleaning industry, Carl, it's linking those algorithms to the exacting measurement to give the exact time for the cleaning task. So to build on the back of that as well, what we're doing with our technology, which is going to be the first of its kind globally, we are machine learning object recognition, and we're auto detecting measurements of floors, and we're also identifying the different floor surfaces from machine learning. So that's what's very exciting for me, is to bring the science behind our industry. And there has never been a scientific approach to how contracts are priced. So it is very exciting for us to become, our vision is to become the global benchmark and the first company through science and technology to achieve this.
Okay, that's an exciting one, Keith. But how big is this problem? Because I'm conscious that you're saying that you became disillusioned by this 7 years ago. So I'm thinking back 7 years ago, you had probably just come through the crash and the early years of recovery, and so what we saw back then was a lot of pricing across, certainly across all sectors of the construction industry. So I'm sure facilities management was quite similar, where we saw a lot of underpricing happening just so that people could keep their teams and keep going. And obviously we saw with some companies that the strategy backfired with catastrophic impact. So I'm trying to think of the environment that you were in when you were thinking about this. How big a problem was it?
Yeah, within the industry, it has always been super, super competitive, Carol. High volume, low margin business, the cleaning industry is globally, and it's always been driven down by the corporates. And, for the technology that we're looking to develop, we want to make it visible and transparent in what we're demonstrating to how it's priced, and actually achieving some sustainable margins for the cleaning industry, because a lot of it is subjective as to how these contracts are being priced and how it's sold. And a lot of the times, good salubrious cleaning companies sell the dream extremely well, but then operationally it falls down because it can't be delivered upon because it wasn't priced accurately in the first place. Okay. So this is what we're looking to bring.
Very good. And I understand that for the last number of years, you've been on the technology side, but I presume the people that you're selling into, they're still working on the ground. And, over the past year, 14 months, how has this industry changed? Because again, when we're looking at contract cleaning for commercial properties, we're talking about a lot of workplaces. Now, obviously, workplaces have meant something different in the last 12 to 14 months. But how has the approach to cleaning changed? Because we're seeing more laser technology coming in. What's
That's right.
changed over the past 14 months?
Yeah, it's a great question, Carol, because I do believe in the event with the advent of COVID, this has shone a fantastic positive light on the cleaning industry, whereas before it was seen by a lot of people as a nice to have, but now it's seen as a necessity for healthy and sustainable buildings to look after the people's welfare and their health whilst they're at work. And within our benchmarking assessments, what we're actually building in is COVID touchpoint cleaning throughout the daytime for the corporates, and giving the cleaning companies the visibility into the corporates as well and how that's delivered. So apart from us wanting to become a accurate global benchmark within cleaning, we're also factoring in COVID touchpoint assessments for sanitization protocols throughout the daytime as well.
Can you I haven't heard that expression before, COVID touchpoint. What does that mean? What does that look like for, people? I'm conscious at the moment that, our audience is primarily one across the planning, construction, property and PropTech sectors. And facilities management is one that, similar to what how you described contract cleaning, it's a high volume, low margin. And at the moment, asset managers are really under pressure, as are employers, how to safely bring their teams back into the workplace. Some jurisdictions are further ahead of us in this, but in Ireland, this is an issue that people are tackling, today, this week, this month. So how, what are COVID touchpoint and what does that mean for facilities management and for employers?
Yeah, good point, Carol. And not only is it an Irish problem, but it's a global problem. And, so previously you would have cleaning regimes for cleaning surfaces. And of course, it's going to be factored in a slightly higher time because you're actually cleaning, whereas now you're just disinfecting. So it's a spray of the surface rather than a clean. So there's going to be some less cleaning time involved in the regimes. And it's very important from a hygiene perspective that, each specific client will have different needs on having some certain touch points done, like handles of doors for entering buildings, so forth, reception desks and so forth as well, security gates, and other touch points like the touch button on lifts as well. So this is what we're bringing, very granular level of cleaning tasks, sanitization tasks into the cleaning regime on the benchmark.
Okay, and I know from the context of PropTech Ireland that we're seeing a huge increase in touchless technology. So we're seeing more contactless, whether it's for elevators or entry and exit from buildings, so that you won't have to have these touch points. So we're seeing technology become very prevalent, but that's in newer buildings. Older buildings, while they can of course be retrofitted, that's not all going to happen in the next year, in the next 2 years. How are we seeing technology change your industry though? Because I obviously we want to touch on the algorithm that your company has developed, but on a broader, kind of taking a broader view, how has the contract cleaning industry been impacted by technology?
So it's very interesting for me, Carol, because I came to London, as I said, 7 years ago, and it took me nearly 4 years to bring the concept and vision to life. And of course, the cleaning industry, you could say, is very cynical in embracing new technology per se. And after those 4 years, when I did get ScanQuo off the ground, the industry was very reluctant to embrace what we were looking to bring, the concept and the vision, the proof of concept of the algorithms, the scanning technology. And last year, within our projects that we delivered, out of the 11 projects, 10 of them were driven by the corporates, which is very interesting to note. So the corporates do have the agenda to drive technology and provide the visibility, transparency and accuracy into pricing. So of course, when we pitched in what we were looking to do, they very much took it on board. And I'm delighted to say, Carol, this year alone, we flipped it completely on its head Now we're working with 1 or 2 global cleaning organizations, and we're also working with some of the UK's leading cleaning companies also in delivering the technology of the concept of what we're looking to achieve. So it's becoming really exciting. So we do believe with this technology, the corporates will have our technology to keep their contractors honest in us benchmarking their services. And then from the cleaning company's perspective as well, benchmarking by an independent company to keep them also honest and giving them the visibility and transparency into their clients. So we believe it's a double-sided coin for us in that both the corporates and the cleaning industry can benefit from our technology.
Yeah, I'm delighted to hear that you are getting that market traction, because we speak to startups every week here, and one of the things we know is that 4 years is not a long time to go from concept to market traction. With companies that would take a lot longer than that. So from that point of view, well done, because I understand the challenge in getting it that far. So that's amazing news. But just so that I understand, what are the consequences of this not being done properly? So say for the industry, what are the consequences of contracts not being priced right, whether they're being overpriced or underpriced? Why is that a problem?
The problem has always been is the credibility of our sector, because of the variance as well. And, it pretty much goes around in a circle. They'll take on a new contractor, they're sold a dream. It has problems from the get-go. They renegotiate and it's fixed for 6 months, and then it falls down again. And it comes back down to, for me, the key fundamental is because the margins are so low. Inadvertently, some cleaning companies will not make up the surplus of lost hours for whatever reason, be it employee absenteeism or unused holidays and so forth as well, to make that little bit of percentage extra margin on top. And I do believe, if the corporate should take this into account when they're deciding on different cleaning companies as to the margin they're giving on the contract, because what I want to achieve for the industry globally is to make and show the visibility of sustainable profit margins for different types of contracts within different sectors within the industry.
Okay, I'm conscious when you started thinking about this 7 years ago, the scanning technology was in use, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. So for example, today, every new building being developed, I would say the vast majority of them will be handed over together with a digital twin of the building. So that's certainly not true of older buildings. However, we do know that in the longer term, every physical asset will need to have its digital asset to provide for good facilities management. So 7 years ago, that wasn't the situation. The algorithm you've designed, can that work against any digital twin of a building?
Yes, for any scanning technology that's out there. And we're using different types. The different types that are out there is the Matterport scanning technologies. There's Leica, there's BLK2Go, and there's an Avis. And we're actually trying all out these different scanning technologies because we want our platform to integrate into these different technologies. So the algorithm still does link to them, because each scan, also getting a little bit technical now, provides a point cloud data of which we map the automation piece in our technology from the scan.
Okay, and I suppose just so that I'm clear, it's good that you have the facilities to be able to do that if you're going in to price a job. But if you're going in to price a job on a building that already has a digital twin, does that mean you don't need to do any scanning? You can just work off the digital twin and give accurate pricing on that. So then, in terms of the AI that your own company is developing for to identify objects within a building, where does that sit? How is that relevant here?
Yeah, it's a great question, Carol, and it basically leads into the automation piece of what we're looking to achieve. So, large contracts typically can vary between 1 month to 12 months, even to 2 years, to price. And with our technology, once our platform is built at the end of the year, you will be able to go onto our site and download the link to our platform, and in minutes it will give you the benchmark results with the cool 3D visuals that you already get within the scanning technology. So from bringing, pricing contracts from months to minutes, it's a game changer for the industry. And this is where our machine learning and AI plays a huge part, because we are identifying desks, tables and chairs, PC monitors, keyboards, even mouses, light switches in a room, room temperature control units. So the level of granularity, because within a scan, every building has a specific DNA to that building. And currently within the industry at the moment is, just say for example, there was 2 buildings, 100,000 square feet. Typically they would be priced for the same amount of cleaning hours. My issue has always been, Carol, the DNA in those 2 buildings are always going to be completely different. So, and how can the cleaning time be exactly the same? It ain't ever. It's going to be different. It's going to be some extra for the one building and less in the other building. So this is where the brainchild of the scan, which you're getting the specific DNA from every building to accurately price that contract, is what we're bringing to the industry.
And then in terms of global benchmarking, that's a huge ambition. So what kind of data do you need to be able to deliver on that?
Yeah, and Carol, within our benchmarking and the pilots that we're doing at the moment, we are and have done pilots in APAC. We have done them in the States, we have done them in the Nordics, and we've done them from Europe as well. So with all of the different parts of the world, we are developing the data sets with more projects we do. And the more we do, the further fine-tuned the benchmark will become as well, because it's accepted as well within the cleaning industry globally. There is a level of pace that you work at, which is between 1 and 5. So in Europe, the pace that you work at is set at 3, which is the normal pace of work. And it's accepted within the Nordics that they work more productively, and they work between 3.5% to 4%. And down in APAC, it's accepted that they do work less productively, and it's roughly 1.5 to 2, so a lot less productive. So within our benchmark as well, Carol, we factor in the ratings of the pace that each of those operatives work to as well. So again, it's another unique function that we are bringing to the table. It's not something new, but we're factoring it in with the benchmark. And then also, Carol, within our benchmark also, and it's another global first, we are factoring in the work times that you work at between tasks as well. So, some of the projects we've done recently, there's 1 hour and 42 minutes a day work time. And for some contracts, that can be the tipping point, whether a cleaning contract is profitable or not. So, and again, by us factoring this equation into the working time between cleaning tasks, it's bringing the vision or a level of granularity that's new to the industry that people have never seen, which of course, when, if I was a cleaning company provider and I was demonstrating to my client that I was factoring in the walking time between cleaning tasks and also factoring in the setup time when you start for work every day, 10 minutes, and also the close off time, which is 5 minutes per operative as well. It's 3 elements: the cleaning algorithms, the walk time between cleaning tasks, and the setup and finish time as well.
That's amazing. Is it too early to ask? And I'm sorry, I know we have to finish up, but I'm really fascinated about this because this is one of the areas across facilities management that we haven't seen innovating. And the fact that you can take a task that was manually taking months and reduce it to minutes. I mean, that's the goal of digital transformation. That's the goal of introducing technologies to industries like this. So then being able to benchmark, I actually think that you're potentially opening up so many other areas for other property technology startups to piggyback on what you're doing then, because you're going to be opening up all of these little key areas of opportunity. But in terms of where you're at the moment, do you have data yet? Have you been able to show findings on, any particular big any big projects? Do you have case studies at this stage, or is it too early?
Yes, we have many case studies, and on average, we are showing cost savings, Carol, 10% and above within the
That's
benchmark.
huge. What's the margin? What's the margin for, what would be the typical margin on this business?
Oh, like if you had a £500,000 contract annually, you were talking 3-4% profit margin on that contract. So it's quite low per se.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So 10% of that is significant.
Correct. It
Okay.
is. It is.
Look, it's
And
really interesting. It's really interesting stuff. And, and I'm sorry, we need to kind of finish up here because I think actually, again, you're opening up so many other areas of opportunity that I think other technology providers will be able to come in and give tweaks on that. In terms of next steps of innovation for ScanQuo, what are you looking at next in terms of innovation?
yeah, it's so interesting, Carl, because on our roadmap, on the immediate future is asset tracking from a scan. And we know there's only one or two globally doing it at the moment, and it's on our roadmap to build out that module as well. But not only that, because when you have this scan data, you have all of, the internal of the building of the twin. So we can do workspace utilization. We are going to tag on HVAC, heating, ventilating, and air conditioning, the lifestyle project from a scan. What else? Painting and decorating. We know the surface measurement of the wall. We attach the amount of paint that it needs to the wall, the amount of time that it takes the painter to paint it, and put the overhead costs in there as well. So that, mechanical and electrical. So there's 8 other modules that we're going to build on in the platform. And of course, we are going to bring in the industry expertise to the platform when we're building each of those modules as well. So it's really exciting times, and says me, our platform will have so many different revenue generating models. If there's any investors out there listening, yes, we're looking for money. We're happy to talk to them.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's a really interesting one. And given the challenges of pricing jobs across all spectrum, I can see that the model is one that can work far outside of the sector you've designed it for, which again is always the pinnacle of innovation and transformation when we're looking at that. In fact, actually just earlier today, I was having a conversation with somebody, and about the whole spheres of innovation across it all. It tends to fall into 3 buckets, and those buckets are: you can innovate the product or the service, you can innovate how you're delivering it, or you innovate the business model underpinning it. And if you can innovate the business model underpinning it, this is where you see the really transformative change.
Yes.
And that's what I think you're touching on here. So it's definitely going to be an exciting one to watch. So Keith, thank you so much for joining us today, and continued success for the business. It's great that you're building it in London. Obviously, we would have loved if you had been in a position, if the ecosystem was developed enough to build it in Ireland. It's a challenge that we have, and it's one that we're genuinely working to address. But thank you so much. That was Keith Ryan, co-founder and CEO of ScanQuo. And that's it from us this week. Thank you for listening to Property Matters on Dublin South FM. You can get in touch with the show on social media at iPropertyRadio, or indeed email hello@iPropertyRadio.com. My thanks to Peter Rice on sound. We're back at the same time next week. From myself, Caro Tallon, and all the team here, stay safe.